Rome wasn't built in a day, but when Rome wanted something done quickly, she didn't stick to the book. And that's just what happened when the mighty Roman Empire needed a sword. When Rome wanted justice, she wanted it quick, public, and symbolic. So when a criminal or a traitor had made their last mistake, they'd be brought to the forum or the arena, forced to kneel down, and executed right then and there for all to see. Now this wasn't exactly how the Romans normally did things. Normally, a condemned man would get a trial and a sentence. Maybe a fine, maybe exile, maybe even prison time. But if the crime was egregious enough, say murdering someone close to the emperor or starting a rebellion, the state didn't want to waste time on this. They just wanted to make an example of the perpetrator. And what better way to do that than killing them with the most iconic weapon of the Roman army? Now the sword might not have been the biggest or the strongest, but it was fast, efficient, and most importantly, symbolic. It was the weapon of Rome itself. The name Gladius is derived from the Latin word glare, meaning to glitter, which is fitting because the sword's sharp point and polished surface flashed in the sunlight like 1,000 tiny mirrors. In fact, some historians believe that the design of the Gladius was actually copied after the Iberian Peninsula's Lusitanian sword, which was known for its sharpness and length. So when you think of those gladiators you've seen in the movies, imagine a little more flash and a little less clash. But don't let its size fool you. The Gladius was the perfect tool for its job. First, it was short, only about 20 inches long, which made it ideal for thrusting in tight quarters like a crowded street or the Colosseum. And its double-edged blade meant that it could be used for stabbing and slashing, giving the wielder a lot of versatility. Plus, the Gladius was super durable, made out of iron. It could take a beating and still come out on top, which was important because it was often used in combat situations. Not only did it have practical applications, but the very sight of it struck fear into the hearts of criminals and crowds alike. To be executed by the Gladius was the ultimate humiliation for a Roman citizen, because it was a symbol of the power and authority of the state. After all, it was the weapon of the legions, the men who enforced Rome's will across the known world. So when the emperor's guards showed up to take someone away with the Gladius held high, it was clear that there was no escape. The use of the Gladius for capital punishment was also a relatively clean way to go, at least compared to some other methods. Unlike crucifixion, for instance, being stabbed with a sword was quick, almost instantaneous, and didn't involve prolonged exposure to the elements or being torn apart by wild animals. Of course, that depends on how you die from getting stabbed. If the attacker misses vital organs or arteries, the victim may survive for hours, or even days. But for those who were unlucky enough to be hit straight on, the Gladius delivered swift justice. A skilled soldier could plunge the sword deep into the chest or neck with such force that the victim would not even have time to draw breath before their heart stopped beating. Now, this isn't to say that executions with the Gladius were always neat and tidy. In fact, accounts of certain executions tell us that blood would often splash onto the crowd. But compared to the carnage of the crucifixion, the bloodshed of the Gladius was minimal. What mattered most was the message. And that's why the execution method was so important. It had to be public, something to scare onlookers into compliance. There was no room for privacy or dignity here. The criminal was paraded through the streets for all to see, dragged to their death, and displayed one last time before the final blow. This wasn't just about punishing the individual, it was about reminding everyone who was really in charge. The Romans weren't shy about showing off their power. Think about those triumphal arches they built to celebrate military victories, or those giant statues of emperors that they erected in public places. It was all about making a statement. And the use of the Gladius for capital punishment was no different. It was a way of saying, we are strong, we are in control, and you should do as we say, or else. Think about it. The criminal or the traitor wasn't taken to some secret location for their execution. No, they were brought to the forum, the center of Roman public life, or the arena, the place where Rome's power over life and death was on full display. These were locations where everyone could see and hear what was going on. And what better way to emphasize the severity of the punishment than by using the Gladius, the sword of the legions themselves? When the emperor's Praetorian Guard arrived at the condemned person's house, it was clear that there was no escape. Being escorted by armed soldiers to the execution site was a terrifying experience. But seeing those same soldiers brandished there, Gladi made it clear that resistance was futile. Let's take, for example, the case of Catiline, a Roman senator who led a failed conspiracy against the government. He was arrested, along with several other conspirators, and brought to the temple of Portunus to await his fate. As he walked through the city, the people cheered and shouted for him to be put to death. And when he reached the temple, the Praetorian guards reportedly displayed their swords, flashing their points in the sunlight, a terrifying sight that must have filled Catiline and the others with dread. According to the historians, the conspirators were forced to kneel down while their hands were tied behind their backs. Then the soldiers pulled their hoods back, revealing their faces, and plunged their Gladius into the ground beside each man's head. And as if that wasn't bad enough, they left the blades there, sticking out like a row of tombstones. This was a clear warning of what was to come. If they didn't confess and implicate others in the conspiracy, they would end up dead, just like their fellow conspirators. And when the execution did happen, it was swift and brutal. Their heads were cut off and displayed on the rostra, the speaker's platform in the forum. Talk about a public display of power. So the next time you see a movie about ancient Rome and those gladiators are fighting with those big old swords, just remember, it was the small, sharp, and very shiny Gladius that really packed a punch. And the real power of this weapon wasn't just in its physical capabilities, but in what it represented. The Gladius was the sword of Rome itself, a symbol of the empire's absolute authority and power. And when it was used for capital punishment, that message was clear. Don't mess with Rome or you'll end up dead, and everybody will know about it. As history buffs ourselves, we know how frustrating it can be when you come across a documentary that doesn't quite scratch that historical itch you have. But now we're about to change all of that, because Wondrium has a huge selection of documentaries on every topic imaginable. We're talking ancient Rome, yes, but also ancient Egypt, the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, you name it, they've got it. One of my personal favorites is Engineering the Future, where you'll learn how engineers of the past anticipated our modern world in ways that will blow your mind. Another great pick is Ancient Worlds. Stunning visuals bring ancient civilizations to life and show you how people lived thousands of years ago. With new titles added every month, there's always something fresh to watch. Plus, Wondrium has a fantastic collection of non-history stuff too. So if you need a break from all that history, you can check out shows on science, nature, technology, anything you can think of. And the best part is, with Wondrium, you can watch as much as you want, whenever you want, wherever you want. It's all online or through their app. You can watch on your TV, your phone, tablet, or laptop. It's the perfect way to keep learning and exploring, even when you're on the go. And since you're watching, I have a special offer for you. Thank you for watching.